We are reading now Sefer Ha-Aggadah, Volume 1, Od Aleph, Helek Aleph Ha-Aggadah VaMashal, Od Gimel. So this is about the nature of Torah and what Shlomo HaMelech did. What was his contribution to the study of Torah? And as we saw yesterday, the rabbis interpret or explain the work of Shlomo HaMelech through parables. And they use different parables. They actually use 5 mishalim, 5 parables. And all that, it's a parable to explain the parable of Shlomo. And what they try to show is how, by his method of interpretation and teaching of the Torah, he gave people handles or tools to access the Torah. So yesterday we looked at 2 parables by Rav Nachman. One is of a palace that has many rooms, basically a labyrinth, that people get lost in this labyrinth, and he and that wise man put a cord that leads people in and out. So that was the concept of the Torah as a rigid, unchanging entity that you have to accept, and you have to go in and go out, to basically live your life without transgressing any of the concepts of the Torah, but you cannot change or update any part of it. The second mashal speaks about someone who cuts his way through a forest with a sickle. So here it's a little more aggressive action, and it's not only aggressive, it's interactive. He changes the forest. The forest after he went in and before is not the same. It's not like the palace or the labyrinth where she just adds the cord and goes in and out. So this shows the dynamic nature of the Torah, where you constantly have to assess the needs of the people, the changing circumstances, when you understand that you cannot apply the same halacha to everyone at all times. So that's why the statement, that's how we do it, should not really work in halacha. It's that, there are certain possibilities. The absolutes are only what the Torah gave as absolutes. Anyway, these are the 2 first mashalim. Then we have another mashal. Rabbi Yosei Amar, לקופה גדולה מלאה פירות ולא היו לה אוזניים, ולא הייתה יכולה להיטלטל. ובא פיקח אחד, ועשה לה אוזניים, והתחילה להיטלטל על ידי אוזניה. So they use the word izen, that Shlomo HaMelech, izen mesharim הרבה. So we said the word izen comes from balance, and also it's the Hebrew word for ear. Ears and balance, because they are connected. But this mashal is of kupa gdola. It's a big basket full of fruits. Now, when the rabbi's rabbinical language, fruits doesn't mean fruit like apples and bananas or citrus. It means wheat. Perot b'lshon HaMishnah means wheat. So we have a basket full of wheat, and people cannot carry it because it's too heavy. Then a wise man added ears to the basket, or what we would call handles, right? But they use the word of the pasuk, ve'izen. So he adds baskets. That's a simple thing. It doesn't cost much, but it's inventive. Now, unlike the mashal with the cord or with the sickle, the man who put the cord did not change the palace. The man who used the sickle aggressively changed the forest. The man who adds the handles to the basket is creative, is inventive, but it doesn't really alter the content or anything like that. It just gives literally a handle to be able to carry the basket. So this person, this Rabbi Yosei, who looks at the Torah, says the Torah is heavy, not in the sense of a burden, but it's too big to carry. It's deep, it's wide, and it's full. What is this basket full of? It's full of grain. That you can take one grain at a time, but you cannot move the whole basket. It's also the kind of small things that accumulate and become a huge mass. You cannot pick them by hand. All these elements are there. And now that you created that, now you have handles, you can carry the basket. Now the question is, who carries the basket? Is it one person or 2 people? Usually if we speak about a big basket and he creates 2 handles, that means that 2 people have to carry it together. So here is also the concept of Torah as a dynamic process that constantly has to be through a negotiation between people and understanding who are you talking to. The Torah cannot be lived in a vacuum. And for some people do think the Torah exists in a vacuum. And there's a famous book by Rabbi Soloveitchik. Rabbi Soloveitchik is the sort of the spiritual father of the modern Orthodox community in America. The OU, Yeshiva University, a lot of people swear by the Rav. I have my personal take on certain things. I agree, I disagree, but one of his books is called, in Hebrew, Isha Emunah Boded, the loneliness of the man of faith, or the lonely man of faith. And that, for me, is an antithesis to what the Torah is all about. You cannot be lonely as a man of faith. Faith can only be lived in tandem with other people. It has to be a dialogue. If you're alone with God, then you live your own religion. I know that what he meant, in the depth of thing, is that a man of faith sometimes feels that he's the only one who could communicate with God, or like he's the only one at that level, that people do not understand him. But that in itself is a fault in him as well. If he feels cut off from other people because of his spiritual level or learning, then something is missing. The Torah is all about interaction. Love your brother as you love yourself. If the other is not in your worldview, then this is not Torah. So this is the one mashal. Then the next mashal by Rabbi Shelah, which is interesting because Rabbi Shelah was a teacher, and his mashal is this: לקיטון גדול שהוא מלא רותחים ולא הייתה לו אוזן להיטלטל, ובא אחד ועשה לו אוזן והתחיל להיטלטל על ידי אוזנו. He says this is like a jar or a big pot full of boiling water, and it cannot be moved until a wise man made a handle, one handle, and then you were able to move it. So now, again, this is just like the first set of parables. It looks like they're the same, one and the same. A basket with wheat, which you cannot carry, then you could carry. A pot, right, with boiling water that you cannot move, but now you can move. But it's not exactly the same, right? Those are the subtle differences that make all the excitement about these parables. In the second mashal, what is the problem with the pot of hot water? Not the weight, but the quality of the content, because it's boiling, and you cannot touch the metal without you're going to get burned. The handle allows you to create some kind of distance. It's not a handle like the handle of the basket, which is a tool to lift it, but rather a barrier. It's a barrier between you and the content of the pot, the boiling water. What you need it for? You need to make a cup of tea. Actually, not tea or coffee at the time they didn't have either at the time of the midrash. But people just drink hot water. They would drink hot water as my grandfather used to drink it like that, just a cup of hot water. I know some people still do it. Yeah, go ahead. So a cup of hot water, you want to drink, it's good, but you cannot access the water. The handle becomes a barrier. So it's like, on one hand, it seems like the same mashal, but there's a twist. So Rabbi Shelah looks at the Torah with more reverence. It's not just about carrying and moving it from place to place. It's something that could scold you, something that could burn you if you don't handle it correctly. He sees the element of danger in the Torah where it's not handled properly, and he thinks that you have to create some kind of a barrier between you and the Torah. Maybe he refers to the fences that the rabbis created around the Torah. So that's the fourth mashal. So all in all, we have now 4 parables trying to explain what is the system that Shlomo HaMelech created in order to, and it's in itself a parable of our way of interpreting and understanding the Torah. So we have 4. One is the going into a labyrinth with a cord and being guided by this cord outside. The second is cutting a path through a forest with a sickle, where it's more dynamic and aggressive, but if you don't follow the path, it will regrow, it will be covered. The third is the basket, the heavy basket that you cannot move, but it's not interactive. I mean, as you carry it from place to place, unless you take the wheat out of the basket and you sow it, and then you have the new generation or the new teachings. Then we have the fourth one, the boiling water, which also has the element, in this parable, the element of danger. Finally, we have a mashal by Rabbi Hanina. Rabbi Hanina Omer, Libe'er amuka mele'a mayim. There's a well, a very deep well, and it's filled with water. Ve'ayu memea tzonenim umtukim vetovim. There's a cold water, sweet water, and good water. What is tovim? What does it mean with the word tovim? Good water? No, like potable water. Not unlike water that could be dangerous for you. Like they say, don't drink the water there. They say, this well is good for you to drink. You could drink the water. But people could not drink the water. Why? They're too deep. They cannot access the water. So,
you just said mele'ah.
No, mele'ah, the well can never be full above sea level, right? Because since we're talking about geodesic well that's connected to other wells, it's not just a reservoir, so it has to be sea level. So if you are right, so you have to get to the water. בא אדם אחד וקשר חבל בחבל משיחה במשיחה ודלה ממנה ושתה. And one wise man tied pieces of rope and pieces of cord together and eventually was able to reach the water and drink. התחילו הכל דולין המנה ושותין. So everybody followed suit and everybody started drawing water from the well and drinking the water. כך מדבר לדבר, ממשל למשל, עמד שלמה על סודה של תורה. Word by word, parable by parable, Shlomo was able to arrive at the secret of the Torah. And this, I think, is a beautiful mashal, really amazing. First of all, Rabbi Hanina comes right at the heel of Rabbi Shila. He spoke about scalding water, hot water that you cannot reach unless you go through a barrier. And Rabbi Hanina says, no, the water is cold and good and sweet. Meaning you could the sweet water, when you have them, you could even scoop it with your palm and drink it. Direct access to water. You don't need containers. You don't need barriers. This is like the pasuk says, "Ahoy kol tzameh lechul hamayim." If you're thirsty, you drink water, and the rabbis say, "En mayim ela Torah," that the water is the Torah. Now, the interesting thing about this mashal is that before the first man drew water from the well, nobody knew what is exactly in the well. They can have theories. I think the water there is good. Maybe it's dry. Maybe there's no water. They don't know. Maybe they throw a stone, then you could hear the plop. But other than that, you don't know exactly what's in it. Maybe it's just mud. Now that man takes the time and the initiative, and it's a lot of energy to create the rope that goes all the way in. But here, the choice of words is very, very specific. The author of the Mashal could have said, Ba Adam Ehad, V'natal Hevel Aroch. And he took a long rope. No, there's no long ropes. Hevel behevel, Meshiha b'mshiha. Hevel is a thick rope. Meshiha is the cord that we now use for packaging. So he ties one rope to a piece of cord and another piece of rope. Meaning he goes in searching. He doesn't come with a pile of them, but rather he comes with every time he could get a little bit. It's an ongoing effort. It's a process, and the process is also interesting because sometimes you have a thick rope, sometimes you have just a more flimsy thread. The same thing with the study of Torah or with any logical excursion. Sometimes you have solid proof. With scientific research. Sometimes it's right. It looks you in the face. Sometimes it's a hunch that you think maybe, and people pursue it for. The Big Bang Theory was created at a certain point. It took 30 years to prove it. The Higgs boson, theorized 50 years to be proven. It's a miracle that the person who first thought of it, or one of the original people who thought of it, was still alive when it was discovered. Right? This is and the same thing with Torah. Sometimes it takes us thousands of years to understand in retrospect what the Torah meant. It's a process where you take one solid proof with a thread, and it's also how we talk about, right, the thread of thought, and you connect them to each other, and you still don't know what's going to be the end. You lower this bucket or scoop or whatever it is down to the well, and it comes up with what? With sweet, cool, good water. And you drink it, and wow, it's amazing. Right? And then other people follow suit, but each one of them, they cannot use the same, they have to create their own. So this mashal, at the end, he sums up all of the other opinions that came before him. He says, I don't see the Torah as a burden, it's not heavy. I don't see the Torah as a pot full of hot water which conveys danger. I don't see the Torah as a maze, which is something that confuses you and all you want to do is go in and go out in one piece. And I don't see the Torah as a forest that also is a place where danger lurks. I see the Torah as a well filled with water, which is good for you. It's the liquid of life. This is what sustains you for life. And yes, it's hard to achieve. It's deep. There's the surface, and there's what is underneath. You have to toil to get there. But if you make the effort and you invest yourself in it, logically, emotionally, spiritually, it's worthwhile.
So now everybody's going to make his own.
You have to make your own rope.
His own rope
right?
Out of
yeah.
Everybody.
So sometimes you don't have to invent the wheel. You could go. Some ropes and threads are already available. So you use them, but you always have to add your personal touch and your personal journey into this whole story. So,